So what I want to do on the meditation is I want to take you to the future version of yourselves. No, I want to take you to a future, but not the future version of yourselves. I want you all to remote view a future and what you see. So from you guys that are doing my class, you've now got more skills in that area. But I'm going to take you into a future, maybe just 10 years, but on our best timeline, not the worst trajectory. We're going to go and try and find the best version of what can happen from today in our current environments and then report back on it. If you want to really think of Aquarius, think of Nostradamus and what he did and how he was able to predict future events. We can do that, all of us can do that, and we don't all have to get high on alchemy fumes to do that, because I think it was the fumes of when they were practicing alchemy that made them so high they could see the future. But hey, they obviously saw something and that was accurate because they match up to what's happened since. Okay, so the Aquarius is the last but one of this astrological cycle. So the next one we do will be the end of this astrological cycle, then we start back at the beginning again. And Aquarius is very futuristic. So think of anybody that's an entrepreneur, that's a little bit like Elon Musk, and scientists that are more the people like that are leading their cutting edge version of things. They'll all be working with Aquarius energy, because I hope you realize by now that each of these full moon archetypes, we all have them all in us. It's just that when we're born, that's the one that's more our dominant one, but we have them all. It's just that we might have mastered some of them in a previous life, so we don't need that experience this time. But if you have some of these attributes, then that's why I've been writing it as experiences rather than as traits. Because most time when you read your sun sign, it says people of this sun sign do this, this, and this. I've been looking more at the overall consciousness, soul, and experiential kind of view of it. Yeah? It's been hard finding the information because it doesn't exist in that form so easily, and it has to be kind of converted. But that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying on the Aquarius archetype to see what it would feel like and to see what resonates and what doesn't. But we're also looking at it to see what memories it'll awaken in us. What parts of us and the lifetimes that we've had where we were doing those things. So Lisa says she's got a moon in Aquarius. So she's already got some of that energy in her. But we've all got all the planets in there of different degrees. So let's just recap what the Aquarius... So the mission of Aquarius is the expansion of consciousness from self to selfless. So it's stepping out of that ego and into mass consciousness, which is, when we talk about going into the quantum space, it's kind of that change. So that's why it's quite useful for three of us today, because we're already starting experiencing that and understanding that space. So think of it as in, instead of thinking about what do I want, what do I need, what do I feel, or what's upsetting me, you could then switch it to what does humanity need, what does humanity want, what is humanity feeling right now. And that's from the self to the selfless. But also Aquarians are very disciplined because they're ruled by Saturn. They're very quirky, which because of Uranus has a very quirky kind of, whenever Uranus is prominent in any time of the year, when it pops up, it'll bring out quirky new ideas. And they're very methodical and structured. But most of all, they're very forward thinking. And their aim, if they're operating correctly, is to manifest these forward thinking ideas into the world. So being Aquarius means having humanitarian concerns, being of greater service to your community or humanity at large, stepping into your authentic self. So authentic self here being your soul essence more than our ego, working to push humanity forward. And also they're very focused on bringing freedom, independence and equality to humanity. So it's a very altruistic kind of view of what they're after. So they can be radical advocates against social injustice. They listen and they can hear, they're deeply compassionate activists, and they transmute the social perceptions, as in they're good at acting as a container to pick up all of these social perceptions that need changing and then transforming them into these futuristic ideals. But their mission is to reveal the truth, so they're always wanting to get to the truth of the matter. They're free-spirited, they walk this progressive world of ideas marching to their own quirky drum. Unfortunately, this also leads to them feeling very lonely, and they feel alienated, out of place, misplaced, and they struggle with feeling like an eccentric oddball and wanting acceptance from the crowd. And to get past that, what they need to do is to share the lens through which they see life. If they can share how they see life, then people can connect to you more. It's like we've been saying all along, the more authentic you are, the more like yourself you are, the odder you are, the weirder you are, actually the more easier it is for people to find you and your tribe to find you. So they're very focused and visionary, future orientated, forward-thinking beliefs of how to heal mankind, groundbreaking innovations, always one step of the herd, ahead of their time even. And if you think of being ahead of your time, it's actually really difficult. Again, it's like being a leader. When you're a leader, that means you're up front and there's nobody there with you. So again, it goes to that feeling of left out, not fitting in, not understanding why people don't understand you, because you're already thinking 10 years in the future. And 10 years in the future, you'll be sitting there going, oh, I'm really annoyed now because everybody's saying what I was saying 10 years ago, but now they get it. It's that kind of, you know. So they also have this awareness of everything is one. And this again goes back to that quantum understanding that everything is energy. We have been, every historical person, we have had that experience in a past life. We are each other, we know each other, we've been everybody. It's all that interrelatedness. And because they can do that kind of networking at that level, they're able then to build an awareness of the hopes, wishes and desires of the humanity, their strengths and weaknesses, their objectives. So they're kind of like really acting like the gods of Olympia, you know, when they're sitting up there looking down on the humans and going, oh, what they need is, that's the Aquarian energy. So one of the things, if they're not doing it for the whole of humanity, they're doing it for large groups like the Third World or people who have been abused. They'll pick like a group of people and they'll stand and represent them instead. If it's not for the mass, they will fine tune into one of these areas. And that's important to understand because that's going to be one of your questions, is to work out which one of those you might stand for. And their aim is, which is the hardest aim, I guess, changing the way people think. Now that's hard because you're 10 years in advance. It's like Nostradamus saying, oh, by the way, there's going to be these metal things flying through the sky, and everybody's just laughing at him and going into the alehouse and getting drunk. You know, they're not going to understand. So that's a struggle, and it's a skill that everybody that does the work we're doing needs, is to be able to communicate those futuristic concepts in a way that'll help the current generation awaken to it. It's kind of like you're planting seeds. They might not understand it, but you're at least planting seeds to encourage people to awake to that concept. And because of this, they can be too much in their head. So air is very much intellectual and they're way in their heads and they can get very ungrounded. So it's very important then to embody that energy down into the physical and create action from it. So the spiritual goal is, I enable the waters of life to flow in the service of humanity's highest vision. So it's basically, I am the conduit that's going to take all of this mass consciousness and channel it into the best version that it needs to be for the highest needs of humanity. Okay? So, with that said, hopefully that gives you an understanding. So when we start doing the questions, so I'm not going to participate too much in the questions. I'll let you guys all take your turns. I can put you all in a group if you wish, but let me get the first set of questions up.